clear of the closing doors, please.
Again, Subway Sports Talk, P. Kennedy. Time to flip to some football. Football, man, it's so dang close. I am 1 week away from my first fantasy draft. Got my first fantasy draft in. I got 2 leagues that are keeper leagues. I'm starting to look at those things. Things are getting live. I'm starting to do my research. I'm starting to look at the stats again from last year. I'm listening to my NFL podcast, my gambling podcast. I'm really getting in the swing of things again. And with that, you start to think about all the things that took place last year and are about to take place this year. And the preseason for the NFL, in my opinion, becomes a very muddied place. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of buzz, for better or worse. There's a lot of projection, for better or worse. And there's a lot of assumptions. And the assumptions are the part you have to be careful about. And it's hard to pinpoint because we don't track preseason expectations and preseason takes like we do, air yards for a quarterback in a given season, right? Like, we don't track how many people picked the Bills to win the division like we track Josh Allen's touchdowns. So we don't remember, and we get confused year over year, and we don't always learn lessons that we learned just 1 year ago, and again the year before that, and so on and so forth. So here we are again as the preseason takes place, spewing out takes left and right. Here we are. Oh, well, this team's on the uptick. This team's clearly down. This team, is an underdog. They're a sleeping giant. They're actually a Super Bowl contender. This team was so good last year. They're obviously going to do it again. And this team was so hurt last year. They're obviously going to be healthy this year, and vice versa. These are all the things we're hearing about. These are all the things that we're trying to rely upon to set ourselves up for your fantasy, for your favorite team, for your gambling, for all these things we love so much that surround football. But so much of it's anecdotal. So much of it is reporting. So much of it is this beat reporter who's a little more positive, and then the couple beat reporters for the New York teams, they seem to be a little more negative, right? And you have to kind of try to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and put together your thoughts. So I've been putting together some thoughts, people. I'm starting to think about all these things that are taking place leading into this season and using what we saw last season as a guide. So I have a couple takes here that I want to, feel out with you guys, on Subway Sports Talk right here on the podcast app, on YouTube, or on Radio Garden State, wherever you're listening. We need to work through this together. Because sometimes you could be listening to ESPN or the NFL Network or your favorite podcast or reading an article or whatever it may be, and you're like hearing guy after guy after guy saying, this one team is obviously going to be great. Look what they did at the end of last year. Obviously, they're going to be better from that now. Like, every team has been a linear progression. It's like, it truly blows my mind that we seem to never learn. What was the team that had a great end of a season that we came out and said the following year, actually, I think they're going to fall back to earth? That's not a popular opinion. It's not a take you hear a lot. And yeah, of course, you got your guys out there who stand for certain teams and stand for certain quarterbacks and maybe hate certain teams and hate certain quarterbacks, and you'll get them. I'm not saying that everybody in planet Earth is expecting the same team to be good, but there is this consensus. There we go. There is this groupthink that happens to take place in the NFL preseason. And to me, there are a couple specific ones that are really leading the pack in a consensus nature. None other than the Green Bay Packers, in my opinion. The Green Bay Packers are the darling of the NFL. They had a very good year last year. They took the league by storm to an extent. I mean, they were 9-8. They weren't spectacular, but what Jordan Love did with that receiving core, what they did to get in the playoffs, and then once they got to the playoffs, was really impressive. But at the end of the day, we are talking about a team that went 9-8 last year, that had a very good playoff run, where it seemed like their quarterback and Jordan Love got better and better and better. These things are true. But call me crazy to believe that I think a couple people are ahead of their skis on calling the Green Bay Packers a Super Bowl contender and calling Jordan Love a lock to be one of these top tier quarterbacks. Like, I don't know if you guys are hearing the same thing, but it seems like to me, Jordan Love is now getting treated like some of the quarterbacks who are truly year after year contenders. Like, yeah, let's not worry about the offensive line and the issues because Jordan Love is so good that it's not going to matter. Let's not worry about the defense because they added a piece or two and Jordan Love is so good it's not going to matter. And I don't know if you're figuring out my first take here, but they just gave Jordan Love a massive contract. And of course, a couple people out here said, hey, listen, maybe it was a lot for 1 year of productivity. Maybe we gave a little too much money to Jordan Love off of 1 year. And I get he sat for a couple years, so he was due up in his first contract. And what are you going to do? You got to pay your quarterback if you think he's a franchise guy. I get it. I get why Daniel Jones got the money that he got, right? Like, I'm never going to sit here and be flabbergasted by a quarterback getting paid. I think that's just stupid. But Jordan Love, as we sit here today on August 16th, has the second highest average. He's tied for the first average annual salary amongst quarterbacks. It's Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, and Trevor Lawrence. They're the highest three. And again, we have to be smart. We have to not be too ridiculous here. And remember that, of course, the guy who just got the quarterback contract is going to be at the top of the list. Guess where Daniel Jones was when he got his contract? He was much higher. He was like top 6 for that average annual salary of what he was going to get if he got his contract to go, past all the guarantees and partial guarantees and et cetera. Guess how many quarterbacks are above him now? 13. That's just a year over year. That's after one season. We're now looking at like 6 or 7 other quarterbacks who are now above Daniel Jones in the average annual salary. And this isn't about Daniel Jones. This is not about Trevor Lawrence yet, because it's about Jordan Love. Now, Jordan Love is a quarterback who I need to be fair about. I didn't like him coming into the draft. Didn't think he was very good. I thought Jordan Love was kind of a scrub, if I'm being honest. I said, I don't get this pick. Aaron Rodgers is still so good, coming off an MVP. Don't you think it would help to get some of these receivers in? Don't you think it would help to add this defense? Instead, you're using your first round pick on a quarterback who's not playing for 3 years. Packers have done it before. Packers seemingly, to this point, made it work again. And I'm not going to sit here and say Jordan Love sucks, but I am going to sit here and say we are going way too hard on the love for Jordan Love. Way too hard. And here's the perfect example. Last year, Jordan Love, 17 games, played all of them, 9-8, 4,100 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Really good. Just really good stuff. And on top of it, I mean, you can't throw 32 touchdowns by just being a simple game manager, right? Like, that's beyond the point. In this NFL, you don't get to 32. He's second most in the league by just dinking and dunking and letting your receivers do all the work. It doesn't really work like that. Jordan Love made great throws throughout the year. He made aggressive throws throughout the year. He did a lot of things that were special, to the point where last year I was constantly betting against the Green Bay Packers, waiting for them to fall off, and they didn't really fall off. There was like a 2 or 3 week stretch where they kind of came down to earth and he couldn't really move the ball, and then he came back with vengeance and was even better than he was before that. So I was wrong on Jordan Love last year. But do I believe now that I'm wrong on Jordan Love forever? I'm starting to think I might have been wrong on calling him a scrub. I actually think it's safe to say I am wrong for thinking he was a scrub. Perhaps it's safe to say that he only really got to where he is now because of letting him develop, because of working with Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur and a good system and a good offense and etc. Maybe his years on the bench did truly help him, which we know is not for everybody, but it clearly works for some guys. But again, it comes down to expectation versus what was done versus what the masses are now expecting. This Packers team was never a huge favorite last year. This Packer team was catching people by surprise. This Packers team had a slew of offensive talent that was useful for Jordan Love to throw those 32 touchdowns. But let me tell you and remind you about a season that took place just 2 years ago. Remember, Jordan Love, 17 games, 9-8, 4,100 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Really good. In 2022, so not last year, but the year before that, we had a second-year quarterback, and you might figure this out by the time I get through it, a second-year quarterback who was starting his second full season, and that first year, realistically, we're throwing it completely in the trash. It didn't matter. It was bad for him. It's bad for everybody. And we all kind of accept that because I think it's the case. His coach was really bad. You're probably figuring out who I'm talking about. But this quarterback in 2022, in his year 2, which was kind of his year 1, 17 games, 9-8, 4,100 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Really good. On his way. This guy's a first-round pick as well. It's Trevor Lawrence. But what happened to Trevor Lawrence in year 3? 16 games, missed 1, 8-8, 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Is Trevor Lawrence a scrub now? I don't believe so. Some people are telling you, some people are out there pointing at you saying, no, Trevor Lawrence stinks. He's not going to get it done. He's not going to be able to become that number 1 overall pick, that incredible prospect that we thought he was. He's overrated. He's done. He's out. Rewind 1 year, people. Rewind 1 year. What did Trevor Lawrence do? He went 9-8, made the playoffs, had an incredible playoff victory, put the pressure on the Chiefs in the playoffs, and came up short. What did Jordan Love do last year? He had a 9-8 season, very impressive, went out and won a playoff game and put the 49ers with their backs against the wall and came up short. Is it possible for Jordan Love to be okay this year? Is it possible for the Green Bay Packers to just be on the brink of the playoffs, maybe sneak in, maybe just miss? Yes, absolutely. So this is all for me to say. Everyone out there who's, Jordan Love, man, what he does on the field is just incredible. He is lifting up all these receivers. He doesn't even have like this true number 1, and he's just getting it done. Did Trevor Lawrence have an incredible wide receiver his second year? Did he have a Devontae Adams? No. He probably didn't even have Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavius Wicks. He didn't even have those guys. And he threw 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 4,000 yards. Are we seeing a parallel here? It's important to remember entering this season, every year, what happened a year ago that we can learn from? At the beginning of last year, the Jaguars, man, they were a lock for the AFC South. They looked great. They came out of the gates all steam ahead. Oh my God, the Jaguars, they're a lock for that AFC South. They would have to blow it to not come through and win this division. Well, the Packers are in a division that's way better than the AFC South. They got the Detroit Lions, who are a true Super Bowl contender as well. The AFC South didn't have that. The NFC North also has this sneaky Bears team with a rookie quarterback and a lot of talent on their offense and a defense that actually had some moments last year. Like, the Bears have similar odds to the Green Bay Packers to win the division. Right now in the NFC North, Detroit Lions, pretty heavy favorite, plus 135. The Green Bay Packers are plus 230. The Chicago Bears are plus 275. So maybe I'm throwing stuff at the clouds right now. Maybe I'm making a whole lot to do about nothing. But based upon what I'm reading, based upon what I'm hearing, based upon all the takes on all the platforms that I'm listening to constantly, people are talking about Jordan Love as lock for a top 8 quarterback in the league. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is as high of a chance for Jordan Love to come a little bit back down to earth and be a little bit closer to the middle of the pack, maybe a 13th ranked quarterback, as it is for him to be number 4 in the league. He had a great stuff going last year. Jordan Love had a lot of good things happening. He made some throws that blew my mind, that were very impressive, that even me betting against the Packers said, wow, God damn it, that was good. Wow, I love that he took that risk. But guess what happens when you take risks as a quarterback in the NFL? Sometimes things go astray. Let's talk about the quarterbacks who led the league last year in bad throw percentage. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. You got Bryce Young. That makes sense. He was very bad last year. Guess who had the second highest bad throw percentage in the NFL last year? CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, a guy who also had 4,100 yards last year, threw 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, and is highly regarded by many as the next quarterback to take that leap, the next young stud quarterback. Maybe CJ Stroud takes a little bit of a step back this year. How come I'm hearing some stuff about the Texans and their struggles and how they may struggle to be in the playoff mix this year? And I'm hearing people talk about the Packers as their sleeper Super Bowl contender. Doesn't add up to me. Doesn't add up to me. Who else was in that bad throw percentage margin there? Trevor Lawrence. Wow. Guess what? Just talked about how his year 2 was really good and looked at as a launch pad for year 3. Year 3, his interceptions went up. He went from 8 to 14. His touchdowns went from 25 to 21. He got a little banged up. Things happen. His receivers also stepped out of bounds on about 4 touchdown passes, maybe 5. Like just missed. And perhaps it's because his bad throw percentage was 18%. And guess who is number 6 at 17%? Jordan Love. So when we break this down, when we try to make projections, when we try to see who's the next guy, let's remember these things are not linear. These progressions for quarterbacks take time. They have ebbs, they have flows. They go up, they go down. Jordan Love is not a lock to be a top 8 quarterback, a top 5 quarterback. He's got good talent around him. He's got a good coach. I think they compete this year. I think Jordan Love is not a scrub. What I said about him when he got drafted is wrong. I was wrong. But he's also not that guy just yet. I ain't giving him that crowd just yet. And all that to say, from the Packers, I would have paid the man too. I don't think that's the incorrect take here. But I do think the incorrect take is banking on them to be a playoff contender, Super Bowl contender. That, to me, is just too aggressive. Another take for you guys. A lot of people ready, and this one's close to home, a lot of people ready to put the Bills down. A lot of people saying, you lost Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, what are you going to do now? You don't have Dable anymore. You don't got Diggs anymore. Who are you throwing to? The defense is losing people. The offense is losing people. The Buffalo Bills are struggling. And guess what? DraftKings and the odds, they start to tell you some similar stuff. The New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills have the same odds to win the AFC East at plus 180. The Miami Dolphins are right behind at plus 200. So we really do have a 3-headed monster in this AFC East. But I do want to say this. All this talk about Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love and Caleb Williams and Daniel Jones and CJ Stroud and whatever, all these guys who have given you sparks, who have given you something, who have shown the ability to lead teams, and Daniel Jones probably shouldn't be in that conversation, but I did mention before, all these guys haven't done it at the level of Josh Allen. When you make your list and you say, here are the top quarterbacks in the NFL, it's almost undeniable. It's almost a guarantee, depending on who you're talking to, or I should say, not even depending on who you're talking to, that Josh Allen is top 3. And in a lot of cases, he's number 2. It's Patrick Mahomes, it's Josh Allen, and it's Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, kind of that's it, right? After that, you're looking at kind of a bigger variance of who ends up being in that 4 through 10 spot. There's a lot of people who will then go different ways, but that top 4, if you're a Joe Burrow health believer, is really going to be Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Lamar in some order, with Mahomes being number 1. All these other teams, and Aaron Rodgers is now included in this because he's coming off an injury, and Tua is obviously included in this because he has a lot to prove, even though he led the league in yards last year as a passer, almost 30 touchdowns. None of them have that ability that Josh Allen has to carry, to be a one-man show. And I know that's exactly what we said was a negative about Josh Allen last year. He's trying to do it himself. He's doing too much. He's trying too hard, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, when you look at Josh Allen, with the third or fourth most touchdowns thrown in the league, another handful running, he puts the team on his back time and time again. Josh Allen had 15 rushing touchdowns last year. 15. He only had 500 rushing yards. He wasn't running more up and down the field. The Bills said, we got this weapon. He happens to be an amazing thrower of the football. But when we get near that goal line, my man's going to score. And he's going to do it a lot. And he did just that. So Josh Allen and this Buffalo Bills team, I know there's no more Diggs. I know you're going to put a lot of pressure on Keon Coleman as a rookie to be one of their guys. I know there's a lot of pressure on Dalton Kincaid to be a guy who can get 90 catches and 9 touchdowns. It's a lot of pressure. But when I put my chips into the center of the table, am I going to put my chips on Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins, or Aaron Rodgers off an injury, or an injured Justin Herbert, or a Jordan Love, or a CJ Stroud in year 2? No. I'm putting it on Josh Allen. And the vibes seem good in Buffalo. Everything seems positive. They just asked Josh Allen, do you miss Stephon Diggs? And his answer, and I'm definitely not quoting verbatim here, was Stephon Diggs was a great player. He was awesome to have on the field. But miss him? No. I don't miss him. The vibes are immaculate with Josh Allen. That Buffalo Bills team may have lost some talent, but they still got the number one thing that matters most, and it's a top 3 quarterback guaranteed to make the playoffs. The Buffalo Bills will be in the playoffs. Can the Dolphins win the division? Yes. Can the Jets win the division? Yes. But if you're burying the Buffalo Bills saying they're out of the playoffs, that is something I cannot get behind. Because you don't do that to Mahomes. You don't do that to Burrow if he's healthy. You don't do that to Lamar if he's healthy. Josh Allen's healthy. Josh Allen has the same weapons that Lamar works with every year. He's going to be fine, people. Josh Allen's going to be fine. And the Bills are as live to win that division as the Jets, as the Dolphins, but they are more guaranteed to be a playoff team. Their floor is higher. The Jets lose a couple pieces. Their O-line starts getting banged up, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's not looking too good. They're going to struggle to get there. The Dolphins lose a Tyreek Hill, whatever. I'm saying outside of the quarterbacks. Obviously, if Rodgers is out, what are we doing? Tua is out. I don't know. We'll see. Josh Allen out. Those are different conversations. But I'm saying all the pieces around them. Who's more likely to overcome stuff in this whole league, not just the AFC East? It's Josh Allen. He's going to overcome stuff. He's going to make people better. He's going to put the team on his back. If you're burying the Bills, you're making a big mistake. That's take 2. Take 3. Let's talk about the New York Giants here a little bit, which is not as fun. Just talk about the Jets a little bit there tangentially. Vibes are pretty good with the Jets right now. I'll say this quickly. I know Hassan Reddick wanting out before he actually joined the team. Very weird. That's bad vibes for sure. But their defense is still so good. They have talent on offense. Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are top 5 at their position, if not higher than that. Aaron Rodgers, if he's healthy, we're thinking things are going to look okay for the Jets, right? Do I trust them as much as I trust the Bills? No, but I feel okay. I like where they're at. I like where they're going. And Saleh seems to be locked in, right? Saleh saying, hey, I'm not really texting nobody. I'm not really looking at stuff online. I'm not trying to use bulletin board material. We're locking in. I like that. I like that a lot. Bills, I trust it. High floor. Josh Allen, high floor. If we're going to rank him top 3 as a quarterback, we got to say, just like the rest of the top 3 quarterbacks, their floor is the playoffs. That's what it is. And it's true for Josh Allen and the Bills. On the New York Giants side, Daniel Jones, the bearded Daniel Jones, the aura is back. Daniel Jones looks so much cooler with a beard. But that's not what we're talking about. This team is at a crossroads. And I think it was made clear by Joe Shame on Hard Knocks, where he was often alluding to the quarterback situation and Daniel Jones and giving him everything he can to get the job done, and Daniel Jones being here this year and giving him the leash. Let's give him an offensive lineman. Let's not re-sign Saquon. because then it's going to be a Saquon offense and not a Daniel Jones offense. Let's see what he does with Neighbors, who's now here, obviously under team control for years, with Hyatt, with Wandale, with Bellinger, with a little bit better of an offensive line, a little healthier. John Runyon comes in. All these things are good. They all make sense. The defense for the Giants, a little weak in the secondary. Linebackers and defensive line looking damn good. There's an opportunity for them to be disruptive defensively and get some things done here. But it all comes down to one thing, and one thing only. It's Daniel Jones. And we just spent a lot of time talking about Jordan Love. We spent a lot of time talking about Trevor Lawrence. And right now, Daniel Jones, I mentioned he's not getting paid as much as those two guys. Those guys are top 3 in the league for average annual salary for quarterbacks. Daniel Jones is middle of the pack now. But the important thing, and I said this when the Giants signed the contract with Daniel Jones, they have an out. They have an out after this year. They have an out after next year to get some of that money off the books and really restart. And now it's time. There is no more excuse for Daniel Jones throwing 14 touchdowns, 12 touchdowns, 11. If he's not throwing over 20 touchdowns, he's not an NFL quarterback anymore, or not a starter, at least. I don't want to hear an excuse. I don't want to hear about an offensive line. I don't want to hear about none of that. I'm done. Daniel Jones has to get it done now. There are too many quarterbacks who get too many positive things done with all the same situations that Daniel Jones deals with. He's got a good coach. The O-line's better, probably not great, but guess what? Was Houston's O-line good last year? No. He ain't close to CJ Stroud. Was the Packers O-line great last year? They were fine. Jordan Love threw 32 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, they were dealing with injuries on the offensive line up the wazoo. What did he do? 21 touchdowns, 4,000 yards. Healthy. Daniel Jones has injury concerns, and Daniel Jones has throwing touchdown concerns. And this take is more of just a vibe thing than a specific, like, this is going to happen, this isn't going to happen. Daniel Jones is out of excuses. That's it. I'm feeling the vibes. I'm feeling the aura. And I don't feel great. There comes a point in time where the excuses go out the window. I don't care about the offensive line. I don't care about if your weapons are fantastic, good, or bad. You got guys who can catch the ball. You got a new one who might be a stud. It's time to throw 25 freaking touchdowns. We're not asking for 40. We're not asking for Peyton Manning's record. Daniel Jones needs to put points on the board. There are too many quarterbacks week in, week out that we watch on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. Red zone, standalone, doesn't matter. Who throw 2 touchdowns a game, and it's not like, hallelujah, our quarterback got it done. It's another day in the office. And if we don't end this season saying a 2 touchdown performance from Daniel Jones is another day in the office, he's out and he's off the books. The Giants have an out in the contract. So you go into this year with your head held high and your expectations not too high, but there to compete, and you see what happens. And that's it. That's what it comes down to for Daniel Jones. That's all we got. A couple takes for you. Get them off the chest. Say them out loud. I feel good about it. And we'll be back with more football next week. But this has been Subway Sports Talk right here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and of course on RadioGardenState.com. Tell your smart device, hey, smart device, play Radio Garden State on TuneIn, and you got it right there. That's all we got. I'm Pete Kennedy. We'll see you soon. We'll see you next week, actually. Talk more football, talk more baseball. Thanks so much. Cheers.